Was it growing up in Zimbabwe, and what was the journey, going from Zimbabwe to, I guess, from New York, and now, pursuing a multi-million dollar startup entrepreneurship? I just think it's a, really super interesting journey and story. So tell us a little bit about your background, growing up in Zimbabwe, and then your journey overall.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct to say that people have different ideas when they think of Zimbabwe. Most people know Bob Marley's song Zimbabwe, so that's always like, hey, you come from Zimbabwe, like Bob Marley. Or they think of Victoria Falls, or they think of, our former president, Robert Mugabe, who liberated us from British rule. So Zimbabwe is a British colony, hence why I can speak and understand English pretty well. I grew up in a normal family, so I'm, one of four, the only son and the oldest one. My parents are, not of wealthy means, so they sacrificed a lot for us to go to school, and I was mostly sent to boarding schools where I lived with many other boys. So I wasn't that gifted in many sports, but the one thing I could do really well was run and hit a tennis ball pretty well. So somehow I ended up at a school called Prince Edward, which is an all boys school. And at this school, they have international kids who come and go to this school as well. One of the things I just wasn't doing so well in was English. And they had an idea, which was, well, you can have this enrichment program where you write a letter to somebody in the United States. And that letter, incidentally, is what changed my whole life. And so the way this happened was we were at something that's called assembly. And assembly is once a week where everybody's brought to one place, which was the big gymnasium that we had. And they would, make announcements about everything that's going on around school. So I remember this because the previous week I'd had one of those incidents where you get up really quick and you try to stretch and then you pass out at assembly. And I was acutely aware of just where I was and tried to really listen to everything that was going on. So the headmaster says, does anybody want to write a letter to somebody in the United States? And imagine 600 boys laughing at that. And I was like, actually, let me give it a shot. And so after assembly, I went to what they call the teacher's room. It's more like where the teachers go and hang out before they come to class. And I went and asked, like, hey, what are the details to write to that pen pal? And this lady gave me the address and, the initial letter. And it was to this guy called Michael Tyler Fisher. Michael belonged to a family out here called the Fisher family. They run a real estate company called Fisher Brothers, which also controls Plaza Construction. But I didn't know at that time. So all I knew was I need to write a letter and I need to show it to my English teacher that I'm doing this so I can get credit. So the first problem was, well, how do I mail this thing? Because it's, you have to put postage on there, and we lived in a very, like hyper-inflationary country. It wasn't as bad as it became in 2008, but still, even coming up with, $5, $6 to mail something was quite a lot. So it took almost my entire monthly allowance that I got from my parents to send that one letter. And in that one letter, I kind of wrote that, hey, like, if you do get this letter, can you kind of like mail me back like $5? So, and he did. I'll never forget that, because I was like, wow, like, what a guy. Now I can go trade this $5 that came in the mail, for more than my monthly allowance, and I have a bit more to write back to him. And so that's how it started. And that's the letter and opportunity that changed my life and also my entire family.
That's amazing. It's just amazing to me, right? That one thing that had pretty much changes trajectory of someone's life. So amazing. Thanks for sharing that.